Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm excited to be able to bring you the River Bravo EDC. I've owned this knife for 3 years now, and the only reason it did not get a review back then is because these were no longer in stock, and somebody had told me they were not gonna come back in stock. But lo and behold, I was on DLG Trading the other day and they're back and in a different steel. So finally I get to do this review. This knife comes with a nice leather sheath. I don't really love these type of sheaths. You can wear it vertical or horizontal. And like I said, it's a nice sheath and all, but I prefer Kydex. So I bought this Kydex sheath, I think for like 40 bucks off of Etsy, and it's been serving me very well. So I just prefer Kydex. The Bravo EDC comes in two different variations. You can get it with the thumb ramp right here that has a little jimping on it, or you can get it without the thumb ramp. I personally like the thumb ramp. I can hold it back here if I'd like, but majority of the time, if I'm holding a saber grip, I'm going past it or in the hammer grip. So it doesn't bother me anyway. I just think it aesthetically looks a little bit more pleasing. But this right here, to me, is a perfect EDC size, coming in at 7.125 inches long with a 3.25 inch drop point blade. And this particular version is in CPM 3V. The versions that are available now are in crew wear, and I think I may pick up another one of those. I just picked up a third River, and y'all have to wait to see what that one is. These are handmade in Escanaba, Michigan. Great US of A. The blades have a nice satin finish on them. You have the River stamp there, and then your steel where it's made. And like I said, you do have some jumps up here. This grip is not that feasible with such a smaller handle. To me, it's either here or on a pinch grip. These blades have a convex grind on it. If you don't know what a convex grind is, in a V grind, if you were looking at it exploded view, it's in a V. And then your hollow grind, of course, kind of scoops in like this. And then your convex grind, instead of going to a V, it's a slow, gradual convex curve. So they meet like this. I mean, if you were, an exploded view, that's kind of how it would meet. So it's a much tougher edge. And from the convex ground knives that I've tested, when it comes to woodworking stuff, especially like feather sticking, they work fantastically well. Now, for an EDC fixed blade, I'm not too sure. We're going to find that out in just a second. We're going to do some testing with it. It's nice and thin toward that micro bevel. It's kind of hard to see the micro bevel. It's not a zero ground convex. So you do have that little fine micro bevel there. And right behind that micro bevel is around 12 thousandths behind the edge. So nice and thin, but if you come up to about an 1/8 inch up, it's about 30 thousandths. So it gets thick rather quick. So I'm very interested to see how this one performs. And I mean, spoiler, I've already seen how this one performed, and I'm gonna tell you why. Before I even show you this testing footage, when I first got this knife 3 years ago, I did the full testing routine. And I did a lot of stuff out in the nature trail behind our house. And that was 3 years ago. That was on 2 phones ago, I think. So I no longer had that footage, unfortunately, because my other phones, they didn't have a lot of memory on them. So I was constantly having to delete the videos before to be able to shoot the next one. It was a mess. So I decided I'm not going to sharpen this one up, because once I sharpen it up, I'm putting a V grind on it, because that's just the only way I can do it. So I decided instead of that, I stropped it up on 12 micron gunny juice, and then I stepped it down to like 3 micron, just to give it, somewhat of a better edge than it had after all that testing I did before. So I'm really interested to see how it's going to perform on this new set of testing, and we'll check that edge to see if it's got anything left to it after we're done. I will be surprised if it does. 3V is a great steel, super tough steel. It's not a stainless. You want to take care of it. I live here in the South, tons of high humidity, and I've carried this one a good bit. And because of that high satin finish on it, it closes the pores fairly well. And on all my fixed blades, I put a coating of this Wicked Wax. I have a couple other waxes too, but this is just the one I've been using recently because I like it. I put a coating of that just to keep the corrosion off, and I have not had any spotting. And usually on other 3V knives that I've had that did have it, it's more of a blackened patina. I see that quite often on a few of my other ones, but so far I don't even see any darkening. And it could be because I put that Wicked Wax on it not too long after I got it. It might not have been the Wicked Wax. I put a wax coating of some sort on it right when I got it, and I usually coat my micarta. Now this one came with a screaming sharp edge out of box, and like I said, it's already been used. So after a little bit of stropping, let's see what this one can do. This was my first Bark River to ever test out, and the first Bark River I've ever purchased. I got this one 3 years ago, and it already has a complete set of testing on its belt right now. So I stropped it up with 12 micron gunny juice and 3 micron, and it brought the edge back, I thought, pretty darn good. It was cutting cleanly through phone book paper. Had a couple little snags here and there. So I decided I was gonna, when I started doing the cardboard cutting, it was doing it so easily, I added a good bit more cardboard than I normally do. I think I added another long piece and like 3 or 4 of the smaller pieces, just because if you could feel how effortless it's going through this, it's pitiful. Now, if you did get to, some double wall cardboard or something like that, this convex grind might cause a little bit of drag the way a convex grind is set up. But with the single wall, I don't feel any resistance like any normal. No resistance other than like a normal fixed blade would. It's more than going through this effortless, like I said. So yeah, so far so good. Really, really enjoying it. I'm kind of worried near the belly area because anytime I cut that sisal rope, that's pretty rough on the edge. So we'll see how it fares. Now, testing ergos and seeing how that actual apex of the edge is, and as you can see, it's still shaving this effortless. That's one thing I've noticed with the convex grind, is that they do wood shaving so much better than any of my other grinds. It's just so easy. It almost makes you feel like a bushcrafter. And of course, I'm not a bushcrafter by any means. I do this to test the ergos, and I have to say, especially when I was really bearing down in this portion, this was it's probably in the top 5 most comfortable handles. It's up there with the Reef Knives F3. That one's got a little thicker of a handle, so that one's pretty darn comfortable. So lo and behold, after I cut this first piece of 1/2 inch sisal rope, I'm like, wow. It's still, that I guess the stropping brought it back pretty good. Now, I did maintain it with a strop, over the last 3 years, but I haven't put an edge on it. Now, I put a good bit of use on this. I did all the testing, and then we went on a couple of little outings in our nature trail behind the house, me and my daughter, and we made a little fire out there, made a bunch of feather sticks, and just cut up some normal stuff, nothing crazy. Because I have a lot of EDC fixed blades, so I rotate through them a lot. But that said, whenever I had this one, I didn't have quite as many as I do now, so I did use it quite a bit. I was also testing to see if this CPM 3V would get any corrosion. I know the new ones are in crew wear, and crew wear is a stainless, unlike 3V, which is a tool steel that is not stainless. But I never even had any patina, maybe a little bit of discoloration toward the flats, but other than that, I think because of the high satin finish, I didn't have to worry about it. Now, I did coat it with I think it was Renaissance wax when I first got it, and I always try to put some sort of coating of corrosion inhibitor on any of my tool steels, anything that's not stainless, and I even do my stainless. But yeah, so far so good. And whenever I was cutting through this leather, sometimes I get resistance from some knives, especially if they got thick edge bevels and stuff like that. It wants to grab a hold to the side of the leather, but nothing really gave it any trouble except for the two, that and the black tubing gave it a little bit of resistance. But other than that, this thing really blew me away. I liked it so much. As soon as I finished this testing again, I went and bought a second Bark River EDC knife. Y'all have to wait to see what that one is. I cannot wait. I give this one an A+++++. So yeah, you can call me impressed. It still performed really, really well. The only things that I did notice whenever I was cutting the dense corner cardboard, to where it's going to start to grab on the sidewalls, I felt a little bit of resistance, but that could be because the edge isn't crisp as it was before. But for the most part, it cut everything just fine. Drum roll, let's see if it's got an edge to it. Okay, it's phone book paper, so it's got to have a few little minor hang-ups, one right there. Let's try that again. That was a slow cut. tell you what, definitely not as sharp as it was when I first got it, but would you expect it to be? That's just from stropping, man. Now look, you probably wouldn't even notice if I did a fast cut. Yeah, that's still a great working edge. I cut more cardboard than I normally do. Yeah. I was really surprised that the tip had anything left to it, because I did the sisal rope before that too. Let's see if the tip's bad. The tip's probably the least sharp, if I had to take a guess. Now, I could probably strop it with a 12 micron and get it back enough to where I could use this for a while. I'll probably sharpen it up after this video though. Man, when it comes to the ergonomics, this one is extremely, extremely comfortable. So my particular one has the polished canvas micarta and just the polished stainless pins. But look at that Coke bottle swell up there in the middle and comes back down. That is a thing of beauty. At the thickest portion is 0.76. Phenomenal. That's how you do it. And the handle's not huge. The grip area from the top of this choil to the top of this area right here is 3.35 inches. The handle overall is 3.87 inches. My medium-sized hands, I get a perfect 4-finger grip, as you can see there. I'm right in front of that, right behind that. Perfect grip. Comfortable, fills out my hand nicely. No matter which way I hold it, I don't ever do that, but every grip is very comfortable. Definitely probably in my top 5 most comfortable knife handles. You have a lanyard tube, and there's no sharp spots where they ground this area right here. They did a good job of knocking off any sharp edges. The fit and finish, fantastic. I got my eyes closed. I don't feel where the steel is in between the scales right here. You can definitely tell all this is finished off by hand. Now, one thing I didn't love when I was doing the wood carving and stuff, it's not that big of a deal, but the Bark River I just bought, I made sure that it was the matte micarta, because when you get this polished micarta, it looks really good, but it's pretty slick. Now, luckily, you got these two areas right here that kind of keep you from going forward and back, and it still offers some grip, but the matte micarta, you're going to have the actual canvas showing instead of the epoxy or whatever they use for the micarta, and it's going to be a lot more grippy, especially when it gets wet. So I went with the matte micarta on the next one, and I'll let y'all know how it is. So not really that big of a deal, being that they do offer the matte options. One thing I forgot to mention is they have a beautiful crown spine up here. So I was thinking because of the crown spine, you wouldn't be able to strike a ferro rod, but I grabbed one that I had in here. I'm not going to do it too much because I'm inside, but you can strike a ferro rod. Now, carry options, being that I haven't been carrying it with the leather sheath in that Kydex, I've used the 3x3 Ulti-Clip. That's how I tend to carry this one, but recently I was carrying it with a static cord in the pocket. Perfect length. And these are nice and lightweight, coming in at 3.42 ounces. So very lightweight, and hardly noticed it was in the pocket. Now with some size comparisons to their competitors, it's a little shorter than the Reef Knives Circadian, but it's bigger than the Reef Knives F3. And it's just about identical in length to the Dauntless Manufacturing Dog Bone, and it's a little bigger than the White River M1. And it's just about identical in size to the Vosteed Mink, and it's a little bigger than the Creeley Mako. And it's a little bigger than both the Axial Knives Alpine V2 and the Bradford Guardian 3. And lastly, it's dwarfed by the Ontario Rat 1, and it's just a hair shorter than the Ontario Rat 2. And with every knife, there's got to be some nitpicks or complaints. And for me, I personally don't love the leather sheath. It's a nice, well-made sheath. It's just not my favorite ways to carry. I like to carry clipped to my pocket, and that's why I bought this Kydex sheath. Now, this cost me like, I think 40 or 30 bucks, and it functions very, very well. It's easier for me to get out, and it's easier for me to carry. Not to mention, when it's super hot outside, this Kydex makes me sweat a lot less than this thick leather if I got to drop in the pocket. I will say, if you do use it with a sheath, at first it's going to be super, super tight, and these break in nice. My particular one has gotten nice and supple, goes in and out of it very easily. Next, the edge bevel toward the tip of this one is pretty wonky. You can see right there, it's not the best. Now, it's a little better on this side. It's a very minor nitpick because I'm going to sharpen this one up after this video. so I can get it back to screaming sharp. Now, while we're talking about sharpness, also the sharpening choil is caca on this one. You can see at least they brought that plunge grind back a good bit, but it does flare out a little bit, it's smiling a little bit right there, and that's going to cause a little recurve dip if I don't fix that. Now with fixed blades, that's not really something I worry about too much because that's a very easy fix. I don't have to worry about stop pins or anything. I usually take my Dremel to it or take my diamond file and just put another little notch or make that a little bit bigger. Also, for me, this is a personal preference. Even though I love the way the polished micarta looks, I like micarta for its soft textured feeling and its super grippiness when it's wet, or no matter what, it offers a lot of extra traction. That said, like I said, they offer the matte micarta, and the one I just purchased is in matte micarta. So, you know, that's just a personal preference, and they have the other versions, so it's really, you know, a moot point. Also, I don't know how I feel about the convex grind. You know, if I was using this strictly for doing like wood stuff, then yeah, it's great at feather sticking, and it performed great. So is it that big of a deal? No. I'm gonna put a V-edge on it when I'm done, or I can sharpen it up and work sharp and keep that convex grind on it. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I just got the new Onion version of the work sharp belt grinder. I might sharpen it up on there so y'all can see how that one works. And lastly is going to be the price. It's a pricey knife. The cheapest version of this is coming in at $224.96. Now this is a USA made knife, great fit and finish, and these are handmade by the guys that work in that Escanaba shop. So I don't think it's super out of line, but it is steep, and I know it's going to be out of most people's price ranges. The most expensive one that they have is $461.21. Those are all because of the handle scale materials. This one was a cheaper one because it's just the micarta, no liners. Whenever you add liners, that adds more. When you go up to the more expensive materials, that adds more. That one that's 400 something has desert ironwood burl, piece of turquoise in the middle, and then it has liners. But the cheaper ones at $224, I think it's worth it because I have got a lot of use out of this, and this edge held up very, very well. I like the size, I like the look, and I love the comfort. It kind of reminds me of my Reef F3 comfort. It's not as thick as the Reef F3 in hand, but it kind of gives me that same feeling. Both of them extremely ergonomic. Sorry about my dog. He wants to give his 2 cents on the ergos. If nothing that I talked about was a deal breaker for you and you've been eyeing this one for a while, I wouldn't hesitate on it. I absolutely love the knife. Bark River is known for heirloom quality knives that you can definitely hand down to your children. So to sum it up, the Bark River Knives Bravo EDC is a fantastic piece of craftsmanship with premium blade steel, mine being CPM 3V, the newer ones being in Crewware, one of my favorite steels. You have a super ergonomic handle and exceptional performance. It really stands out in the high-end EDC fixed blade market. Whether you're using it for everyday tasks, out in the woods, or just adding it to your collection, you can't go wrong with this one. Especially if none of the things I talked about are deal breakers for you. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more in-depth knife and gear reviews. And let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on the Bark River Bravo EDC? Do you own any Bark Rivers? If so, which one's your favorite? Thanks for watching, everyone. And remember, keep those blades sharp, smile more. Hey!